Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about frugality. And while I've covered this many times and talked about this in many different ways, today I wanted to talk specifically about when you should be frugal and in what scenarios and situations do you actually go the frugal route, and kind of contextualizing a little bit more. Because I think when someone just says, be more frugal, a lot of people are very stuck in their ways. So it's not easy to know where to start to look to make these big changes, as well as, just saying be more frugal isn't super helpful. You need like specific examples in the same way that if you were to apply this to anything else, right? If someone said, lose weight, that could be working out, it could be dieting, it could be a lot of different things. So I want to specifically talk about some different scenarios and talk a little bit about my experience and how I've been frugal in certain ways and how I've started to change things around at different ages, etc. So let's dive into all that today. After a quick word from my sponsor. Today's sponsor is Stratus, the world's first growth coin backed by real assets and real gold. You can go and check out the competition that they're currently running, where you can win Lamborghinis, Tesla Cybertrucks, and potentially millions of dollars worth of their cryptocurrency and gold. You can check that out with my referral and the links in the description below. So the reason that I wanted to make this video about frugality and how people can be frugal at different times in their life and as things change, etc., is because I spent way more money this year than I did last year. And yet I've transitioned still more towards a frugal lifestyle and saving more money in more ways. Now, let me explain exactly how that's possible. So for a long time, I was kind of neglecting certain things. Like, I've always neglected travel and taking vacations or even having a car. That, I think, especially in your youth, you can afford the most inconvenience, right? You can take the bus, you can, do all these extra things that are a little bit more hassle. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, that's insane, I would never do that. Well, A, there's a lot of people that are already doing this at much more inconvenient ages. And B, again, like, you convince yourself into the scenario where you need a car. A lot of times it's, you're using your parents' car, or you find a way to get to your job or whatever it happens to be. And then you move out or whatever, and your expenses start going up. And you just slowly adjust into this much more expensive lifestyle where you can barely afford to pay for it. And it's because you made all these little adjustments when you could have done something much, much less than what you did, right? People think, oh, well, now I'm out on my own. I was busing, but I want to, upgrade my lifestyle because I'm making more money now. What you should do is you should continue living like dirt, living way below your means when you can, and saving that money to invest and build for your future. Because what's going to happen is you're going to become used to this. You're going to have this new car and you're going to get used to it. And then your expenses are just going to keep going up alongside your wage increases or whatever you're doing to earn more money. Generally, when people earn more money, they parallel it to their expenses, as in every time they earn 10% more, they spend 10% more. And this is just never going to work out, right? We've covered a lot of this before, but specifically what I'm talking about now is, when does it make sense to be, neglecting certain things and being more frugal and making those sacrifices? I say neglect, but what I really mean is sacrifice. In certain senses, you might actually be neglecting certain things in order to save money, and that's okay when you can afford to do it. So another example is, I didn't go to the dentist for like the last 4 years. And then now that, I'm starting to make a lot more money, figuring out how to, finesse my taxes with healthcare expenses, etc., from my small business, I decided to start, treating myself to massages, actually, going and checking my eyes, optometry, dentistry, all that kind of stuff. I neglected that for the past 3 to 4 years, ever since I moved out and was 100% living on my own. I was living on my own on and off in university, but when I officially, moved out and I'm never moving back in type deal, I started to neglect certain things in order to save a lot of money. Mind you, when I went to the dentist, they said, your teeth look amazing. It doesn't look like you hadn't come in for years. So I was all good there. Obviously, you can still take care of yourself. But there's certain things that you can kind of put off in your youth or, sacrifice or neglect in a sense. I mean, I don't necessarily recommend people neglect their health, but as I said, you can still take very good care of your teeth. You could not eat any sugar whatsoever, and you could brush your teeth the correct amount of times and floss and do all that stuff. And you don't need to see the dentist. There's really no reason if you're doing everything perfectly. But it depends, if you're going to be eating a ton of candy every day and then not see the dentist and you only brush, once a day or whatever, yeah, maybe it doesn't make as much sense to neglect your dentistry in that sense. But you can always make changes to your life to be able to save dramatically in different areas of your life. As I mentioned, with a car, with healthcare, same thing comes down to like with food, right? If you're ordering out Uber Eats and stuff like that, you're spending exponentially more money than you would spend from just buying groceries. I switched to, almost only buying groceries at the beginning of COVID. And since then, I've even found ways to like cut out certain things and save just a lot of money. I found that I was spending a lot of money on milk, and I just cut out milk entirely to just save a great deal of money. And eventually, you don't even really notice the difference. So now I'm saving a lot more money. I'm probably only spending like $200 a month on groceries, which is, I would say, very, very reasonable. And I still get, all the nutrition I need, and I get, vitamins and stuff to cover nutrition. But, back in the day, I would be, eating like a Chef Boyardine's lunch, and I ate like the same processed food for dinner every single day. I wasn't doing Uber Eats, but I was really, doing bare bones in terms of like food. And you can get away with that kind of stuff in your youth, and you can kind of, come back and fix all that. Again, I don't recommend it, but if you need to save money, like if you're struggling, you're getting through university or college, or just, you're not very good with your money or whatever it happens to be, sometimes certain sacrifices that are not always amazing for you, and might be a little bit detrimental on the very, very long term, might be very good in the short term. And you can always kind of fix that around and get better as you go. But I think it makes a lot of sense to make more of these sacrifices in your youth, or just, in a certain time in your life that it makes the most sense. Maybe you are, in your 50s, 60s, and your kids are now out of the house, so you don't have to worry about that expense anymore, and you can scale things back dramatically and change things up. But generally, the point of this channel is for people who are kind of starting from the beginning, starting from scratch, figuring out how to make these changes. Obviously, a lot of these tips can apply to, people all around the world of different ages and stuff. But generally, this is for people living decently, but they're just getting by a lot of the times, and they're trying to figure out, how can I start to make changes in my life to better my financial situation? Most people are just, getting by paycheck to paycheck, or they have very, very little savings and or no investments at all. The point of frugality isn't just to, live in a poor way, like live like a poor person for the benefit of just doing so. It's so that you can then take all that excess money and funnel it into covering this lifestyle. First, you scale back, then you take the scaled back money in order to continue what you're trying to do from the beginning. So then once you get used to that lifestyle that you've scaled back into, then you can start investing all your money to then fund this lifestyle passively. I've slowly been doing that over the years by building up my passive income, and it now pays for, 2 to 3 of my monthly bills. And I'll just keep building that up until I cover my entire lifestyle. And, small changes here and there might not seem like a big deal, like saving $50 on groceries for the month. But in the long term, what that really means to me is, A, I mean, you're saving a lot over the year, and B, now I don't have to make that extra $50 in dividend income to cover that. And that's a significant amount of money. $50 less per month, $50 per month in dividend income is quite a bit of money. I would say that's $20,000 or so in passive income. I would say like $16,000 invested in dividends around 5% yield. That's a significant amount of money. So not needing that extra $16,000 is the difference of, saving a little bit of money on your groceries, if you can keep that up. Mind you, inflation is obviously going to affect all this over the long term, but the factoring in of you save 65% of your income and you can retire in 10 years or less if you can cover 25 times your annual expenses. So that's generally what I'm building that off of. So for me, it's about $1 million because I take my expenses, add on 5,000 to be able to cover mortgage and stuff like that. And then I could cover all that with dividends. So for me, my goal is to make $1 million and then invest all that into dividend yielding stocks at 5% on average. And that should generally cover my lifestyle. And then also pay for a mortgage, but that's my plan, and that's just how I'm applying it. But again, it really just comes back to: are you able to make changes in your life to be more frugal in certain ways? So I spent a lot more money this year on clothing, but it was because I was completely cleaning out my wardrobe and switching so that I was only doing one outfit, and it is always this outfit. It is a black t-shirt plus whatever free shirts I've gotten over the years from merch, and I'm wearing khaki shorts, and then I have some khaki pants, and that's it. Very rarely you can buy a suit. I mean, obviously I don't suggest that you be so frugal that you have no formal wear, but you work as an accountant and you're supposed to wear formal wear every day. See, that's not being frugal, that's just being stupid, and then you might lose your job. Frugal is I wear this 99% of the time, and the very, very small percent of the time that I do have to wear a suit, like the wedding that I'll be attending later this month, that I will actually go and I'll get a nice suit, but not too nice, because the previous suit that I got was like $400 or $500, and now it doesn't fit me as well as it did. So I had to go out and buy a new suit. This time around, I was smarter and I got a much cheaper suit, and then you just get it tailored to fit really well. And honestly, you can't tell a big difference between the two suits. Obviously, one looks a little bit nicer, but at the end of the day, you're wearing it. I mean, I'm going to wear it probably one time, and then as long as it fits me in the future, I'll wear it again, but otherwise, probably not. So some people would say you should rent, but then people who get into renting typically get the most luxurious suits possible. And then, they're probably spending the same, if not more, but then they still need to rent again the next time. So personally, I go to a really cheap place, get a suit, get it tailored, and that is the better way to go about that. So you're really not you're not sacrificing much, and you're being selectively frugal here, and you're still saving money, but you're not going so far as to being like, well, I'm just going to wear the suit that doesn't even fit and, kind of make a fool of myself to save that extra money. In some ways, it's good to be frugal to, a fault, but in other ways, it's not so good. And I would say when you have to detract from important things in your life or things that have value, that's when being frugal, too frugal is not a good thing. And this is an example of that, where you don't have to be, so frugal that you're cheap for a wedding. But you can be frugal when your friends are going out, 3, 4, 5 times a week for dinner. And you're like, no, I'm going to stay home and make food, and I'll only go out one time a week, or whatever it happens to be. See, that is much more reasonable in when you're being selectively frugal, because a lot of people look at frugality as being cheap right? And that you're just not willing to spend money. But what it really is supposed to be about is that you're shifting your priorities and focus to be looking more at the long term, looking more at increasing the value of things that bring you value, and decreasing your priority or focus on the things that don't bring you a lot of value. So, getting rid of subscriptions to things that you only watch a little bit. And then maybe even, upping your gym membership because you really like going to the gym. And maybe now you'll just go to the gym 3 times a week instead of going to the gym twice a week and then, paying for rock climbing and all these other excursions. I mean, unless they bring you a lot of value. So a lot of it is about the value add and the consequences and benefits from the value that you get, and then shifting all that around. Most people aren't willing to do the big changes, right? Not have a car, live with a bunch of roommates. Most people aren't willing to do the big changes. So you can start small. You can start with renegotiating your insurance, or consistently checking for better cell phone packages. I recently downgraded mine a little bit, and now I'm saving $15 a month. It's going to add up. And all these little things add up to do so much more. But the important thing is that you're not just being frugal. You're not just saving to save. If you save to save, you don't get any of the benefits that you were trying to maximize, because then you're losing your money to inflation rather than spending. The reason that people are incentivized to spend so much is because the money that you get is going down in value. So you're incentivized to spend it right away. The only way to get around this is by investing in your money into something that will appreciate in value or generate income of some sort, whether you're investing in dividend stocks or you're buying growth stocks and gold. Either way is a much better use of your money than just leaving it around to sit and just inflate away. So this is kind of my take on being more frugal in certain aspects and, certain situations versus just doing what you do and hoping that everything is going to work out. Most people just buy things and they pray that they're going to still be able to afford to pay everything by the end of the month. It's not really the way to go. I would say most people are not looking at their expenses and what they're buying and then they're like, oh, sweet, what can I save at the end of the month? What most people do is they look and they say, sweet, what do I have left to spend this month? You need to switch that mindset so that instead of, I've got an extra $40 this month, sweet, let's get a pizza. Instead, you're like, I've got an extra $40 this month. Let's invest that and turn that 40 into 80. That's the mindset shift that you need to go through. Because again, if most people find ways to be frugal, it will instead just get spent somewhere else, right? Like you stop having your car, but then you start, spending a lot on Uber to get around, and you kind of just shift your spending. Most people end up just shifting, and say, you're not Ubering, and you stopped having your car, but because you're spending so much more time at home, because whether you're working from home or whatever you're doing, you start buying all these extra things to make it better to work from home, or, things to make your bus ride more pleasant. Whatever it is, people will typically shift their money and find a new way to utilize it. What you have to do is shift it so that that extra money is always just being invested, never being spent elsewhere. Very, very important. Otherwise, all the saving that you did, all this effort to be frugal doesn't really achieve you much, because you should only be doing that if you're trying to help build up your long-term wealth and your overall wealth for the long term. That's everything for today. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you agree? Do you think it makes more sense to kind of be situationally frugal? Like, for example, if tomorrow I had a kid, I would not be so frugal anymore, because I wouldn't be like, oh, well, maybe we can buy the cheaper formula, or, the worst diapers or whatever to save a little bit of money. No, you kind of got to prioritize things on what makes sense at the time. You want to buy the diapers that are the ones that are the best for the kid, and you want to have the best formula and the best whatever. Obviously not going so far to be like, organic only and all this extra stuff, but you want to do what makes sense based on where you are in life, because I can't give blanket generic advice that's going to cover every age, country, etc. All I can do is share what I'm doing, share the general mindset and idea behind why I'm doing what I'm doing, and hope that other people can either exactly use those or tailor them in some way that works best for their own life. Most people can afford to save a little bit more than what they're spending, unless you are like literally poverty stricken and you barely even have enough money to afford like rent, and you're barely affording anything, and you don't have any cool interesting things, you never go out, you don't do anything, then maybe like you just need to find a way to make more money. But for most people are making enough to get by and then some, and then some portion is just spent on random stuff that they probably don't need. So I'm challenging you to take that extra money and invest it. The best way to do this, to ensure that you actually stay dedicated and consistent and on top of everything, is that you set aside the expenses that you need. And the only way you can really figure this out is if you budget everything and track all of your expenses, which sounds hard at first, but gets very easy. And then once you know the exact amount that you need at the beginning of the month, you set that aside and the rest gets invested. You don't leave any room for you to, change your mind and do some random spontaneous purchase. Maybe you leave a little bit of money for, something that might come up, but for the most part, your money is invested. It's out of sight, out of mind. Obviously, if there's an emergency, you could still cash out and get your money if you really need it. But having that little extra bit of resistance to actually do so, you're probably not going to think, oh, well, I'm going to sell this stock because I want to buy this new video game. That's definitely a terrible strategy. And you won't think that way once you really get into it, if you're doing it right, at least. So let me know what you guys are doing. Does this make sense to you? How are you being frugal? Do you agree with the things that I've talked about? Do you agree with the ways that I'm frugal? Do you think it's possible to do these things? Again, a recap of some of the things I talked about were your car, living with roommates, changing the way that you eat and your lifestyle. There's so many different ways that you can save money. And honestly, it's a rabbit hole of things that you can get into. You could literally just search up different tips to save money, start doing a few of them. A great little challenge for yourself is to just cut something out of your life for 30 days that is going to save you money. For me, it was milk. And then I realized, like, after 30 days, I was like, you know what? I don't really need this anymore. I'll just keep saving. But when I cut out coffee for 30 days, I decided after 30 days that the benefit I get from drinking the coffee is worth the amount of money that I put in. But you can only really figure that out when you actually go through this and actually cut it out for 30 days and then decide, is this actually, taking away or giving me enough value for what I'm actually putting towards it? If you start valuing things in the hours that you have to work to get them, it's going to kind of shift your thought process on the way that you approach personal finance. That's everything for me, though. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching to the very end, and make sure to comment #1ham in the comments below, and that way I know you watched to the very end. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.